Alright, so you clicked on this video because you're thinking about getting the DJI Avata, but you're not too sure. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why, if you're on the fence, why you probably shouldn't get the DJI Avata. Now the reason number 1 I'm going to say is the learning curve. Now I'm not sure if you have FPV experience. If you do, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you don't have any FPV experience and the DJI Avata is your first go at FPV, I can assure you it's going to be a huge learning curve. When I just thought about getting into FPV, I had no idea what I had in store for me. It is like completely different. Now the good thing is that DJI does include a motion controller, so it's going to help you if you're an absolute beginner. But if you really want to get into FPV, eventually you're going to have to start flying in full manual mode, which is entirely different from everything we've been doing so far. So that is going to be a huge curve for you to learn. I do think DJI makes it easier for persons getting into the game, but nonetheless, FPV is an extremely difficult learning curve. It's not something you're going to start and be able to perfect in a couple of days, a couple of weeks. It's going to take months of consistently flying, of consistently trying new things, searching up things online, and trust me, if you don't have the time, it's going to be very hard. When I just got my first drone, I was a little bit afraid to go up in the air and do like wild stuff, but for the most part, it was fairly simple and there's a lot of automatic features on the drone. For FPV, if you're going to fly FPV the real way, it's entirely manual, and yeah, it's just something that you're going to have to take a good amount of time to get used to. Number 2, it is extremely expensive. Now don't get me wrong, I think drones in general are expensive, but particularly with the Avata, it does add up. So first of all, I had to go ahead and get the ProView combo, which costed me around $1,400 US. I know that is fine on its own, but you also have to get extra batteries. So the battery Flymore kit came to $300. Then I had to buy a fast charger. So in order to have this thing fully kitted up, and I haven't even gotten ND filters yet, I spent around $2,000. I want to say $2,000 or $2,300, and I'm still not finished spending. I also had to buy a case, but I guess that's my personal preference. But basically guys, it does start to add up. It's not a very cheap craft. The DJI route, I do think if you go through other FPV drones, it could be a tad cheaper, but going through the DJI route can be a little bit costly at first. The good thing is that the controller and the accessories that you get might have compatibility with other drones. I think the goggles will eventually be able to be used on other FPV drones, but for now, it's a pretty penny to get started. So keep that in mind if you're considering. Number 3, you're probably going to crash. Now this one is going to seem a little bit scary, I won't lie, even I'm extremely afraid of this one. I have luckily not crashed so far, but trust me, based on all the persons I've seen videos from, all the persons I've spoken to, crashing is inevitable when you're flying FPV. It's like once you're an FPV pilot, you are bound to crash at some point. The thing is, FPV requires you to try, different maneuvers, different tricks, experimentation. In those experiments, there's going to be that one unlucky day that you're going to crash, especially when you're flying super fast and close to objects. So if you do not want to have to spend on another drone, or if you're not in the position right now to be investing consistently, you maybe do not want to get the DJI Avata, because more than likely you will crash. Luckily, there are ways to go around this. DJI has DJI Refresh, and maybe you can insure your drone, but you are almost always guaranteed a crash. As I said before, I have not been cursed with that, crash, but it is a rite of passage. You're almost always going to crash at some point, so bear that in mind if you're venturing into FPV and you want to get the DJI Avata. Number 4, it doesn't come with a manual controller. So for this one, it's funny because this is going to be a pro and a con. So if you are a total beginner, never flown FPV before, then this one actually might be a pro for you. But if your intention is to take this to the cinematic level, to take this to the final level where you're doing everything manual, because trust me, as a content creator and a filmmaker, I do not shoot anything auto mode. So it's just not natural for me to shoot with a controller that is basically made for auto modes. Let me just show you guys the controller. So this is the controller that basically comes with the DJI Avata. Again, I don't think it's, at first I hated it, I'm being honest, I hated it at first, but it's very intuitive. Unfortunately, it does give you some limitations in terms of doing certain moves and styles. And if you already have FPV experience, then you're definitely going to want to get a completely manual controller. So this is going to be a bit of a turnoff. What was pretty difficult for me is at the time of getting my DJI Avata, these were the manual controllers were completely sold out. So I could only use this, and I genuinely did not like this. I do have a greater appreciation for it now. But if you are looking to get into full acro mode, full manual mode, then you're not going to want to be using this guy. If you're a total beginner, you might like it. So yeah, this is actually going to be on both sides. This is going to be a pro and a con. But for this one, it's going to be a con for those more experienced persons. Number 5, it is extremely loud. Now guys, you might not see this as a problem, but for me personally, I think the loudness is actually very distracting. Now I like to fly my drone very inconspicuous. For those of you that don't know what that means, I like to fly very low key. I do not like to cause a big scene. You know, having a drone in the air is already going to cause a scene. People are going to come over, they're going to be like, hey, is that a drone? And then it, you know, causes these awkward conversations, and then people start to stare at you. So I like to fly very low key. This thing is so loud that everyone around you will be alerted to what you're doing. So especially if you're not trying to cause a scene, if you're trying to do a quick shot and not disturb people, it's going to be hard. It is extremely loud. Compared to all my other drones, I mean, I think this is even louder than my bigger drones, my Mavic Pro 2, my Mavic Air 2, and definitely 10 times louder than the Mini Pro 3. This is an extremely loud drone. So it's going to cause a scene. This is not something that you're going to fly and nobody will notice. So it's not, I'm not going to advise you to try and do this, you know, to sneak shots. Like maybe if you're in an area that you don't want to alert people, or you don't want to disturb people, this is not going to be for you. It is super loud. I was flying this the other day at a hotel, and it made so much noise that like everyone started to stare at me. Even the securities came up to me. I mean, they didn't stop me from flying it because it wasn't illegal, but you know, just the commotion, the anxiety from having so much people, you know, alerted, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking. So if you're looking for something more subtle and low-key, this might not be the guy for you. But with that aside, I still do think the DJI Avata is a great drone, and if you're considering it, I'm also going to make a video on why I think you should buy it. So if these reasons didn't discourage you from buying this drone, then check out that video right here.